All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about Errol Spence Jr., Jermall Charlo, and Jermall Charlo, trainer Derrick James. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we are going to talk about some of the best fighters in the world and recent rumors that have hit the street regarding Jermall Charlo and Errol Spence Jr. and the camp that they have going on in Dallas, Texas under Derrick James. But before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are not a subscriber, please accept my invitation to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And again, thank you so much for your support. Also, man, hey, make sure you hit that like button before you walk out the door. All right, so this is something that I've heard. Do not know if it is true or not. It's being backed up by some photographs that have been recently put up by Jermall Charlo on his Instagram. And that is that there is a potential for Jermall Charlo to be making a change from his current trainer, Ronnie Shields, to Derrick James of World Class Boxing Gym. I hope I get the name of his gym right, the one in Dallas, Texas. If you're not familiar with the circumstance, let me give you a little bit of background. Jermall Charlo is the WBC 160-pound champion. You also have his twin brother who will be fighting for the undisputed championship of the world with against Brian Castano coming up in May. And in that same gym with Jermall Charlo, you have Errol Spence Jr., who is fighting for a 3-belt unification fight against Yordenis Ugas on April 16th, or 10 days from now. So the Saturday after next. Now, if people aren't familiar with Derrick James is somebody that is I do believe he's a 2-time trainer of the year, the trainer of Jermall Charlo and the trainer of Errol Spence Jr. And Jermall Charlo is currently with the trainer Ronnie Shields. And here is the issue and what I would hope to be the case and why I think people are speculating that. First is Jermall Charlo, was in the gym with Jermall Charlo and with Derrick James, right? However, I think that this is probably also the best case scenario for Jermall Charlo, in my opinion, which is to do what his brother did and make a change from Ronnie Shields over to Derrick James to improve on his game and get him back to being in a situation where he is knocking guys out, he's looking spectacular in fights, and that would do more than anything else to get him back into a situation where he can get the big fights that he wants to get. If you look at the track record of Derrick James and what he did, well, first of all, what he's done with Errol Spence Jr. and what he's done with Jermall Charlo, but first what he did with Errol Spence Jr., and this is not like what a lot of people have been able to accomplish or major trainers have been able to accomplish, in their career, which is to build a fight, basically build a fighter from the ground up or a little bit off the ground, right? Errol Spence Jr., I do believe, got with Derrick James when he was like 16 years old. He was fighting in the amateurs, so it wasn't as if he had never picked up boxing gloves or whatever. He came on originally as a consultant for Errol Spence Jr. and was giving him advice about how he could improve himself, while he was training with the amateur trainer that he had at the time. But eventually became the full-time coach for Errol Spence Jr. and then took Errol Spence Jr., I do believe, to the Olympics, and then has taken him to where he is now. So he built that guy from the ground up. But also with Jermall Charlo used to be with the same trainer that Jermall Charlo was with, Ronnie Shields, and those guys had been together. I do believe they're trainers from when they were little kids, right? So, but at a certain point in time, Jermall said, look, I got to leave because Ronnie Shields didn't have enough time to focus on him. He made the shift from Ronnie Shields over to Derrick James, and as a result, his career took off. He became, in the words of Errol Spence Jr., they worked on certain fundamental things, improved the fundamentals of Jermall Charlo, got him to the point where he stayed on balance consistently, and he felt a lot more comfortable sitting down on his punches, and he improved Jermall Charlo as a fighter. Specifically, what Errol Spence Jr. said about it was that Derrick James is somebody that is not into really changing you a lot, but will look and pretty much nitpick the small things that you have in order to improve you, improve the way that you can fight. Like, for example, always being in position to throw a punch, things of the sort, right? So for Jermall Charlo, who I think it's fair to say, at least in the last, I don't know, man, it's been a while, like 4 or 5 fights, it seems as if his development has stagnated a bit. He does not, even though I definitely believe that he is a top fighter and deserves to get the matches that we talk about, he does not necessarily look like he is steadily improving in his career, especially when it comes to getting knockouts. Because originally when the Charlo brothers came out, it was Jermall was the power puncher and Jermell was more of the boxer, right? But once Jermell switched over to Derrick James, Jermall Charlo started getting big knockouts, right? And that's what Errol Spence Jr. That's also the same thing that you see with Errol Spence Jr. is that Errol Spence Jr. is always constantly wearing on a dude, being aggressive, and being able to pull out these fights and stop guys, right? So I think that maybe Jermall Charlo, I actually hope that this is true. Not to say that Ronnie Shields is not an excellent trainer, because I have no reason to doubt that he isn't a top-notch trainer. But when you after you've been with somebody, and I don't know, what are they, 31 years old? If you've been somebody's, with the same trainer since you were 14 years old, you kind of hit a plateau with the guy, and you get to be 31 years old, and you're not, getting the results that you want, then it may be time for you to look at somebody else, whether or not it's a consultant or whether or not it's another completely different trainer, and see if they can get get a little bit more, out of you. And also, just to tell you the truth, and be honest with you, the results that Derrick James has gotten as a trainer is significantly better than the results that Ronnie Shields has been getting as a trainer, especially when you look at the common fighter they had in Jermall Charlo. So, and I also think it's probably a camp that Jermall Charlo would fit well in. He's very familiar with his brother, familiar with Errol Spence. They do not fight on the same schedule. And also, Derrick James is not a tremendously busy trainer. I mean, from what I understand, he trains exclusively professional fighters, so he doesn't have a lot of amateurs in his gym. He trains Frank Martin, he trains Jermall Charlo, he trains Errol Spence Jr. He was training Sir Marcus, what's his last name? Guy just got knocked out by Vitervia. Sir Marcus Brown was training Sir Marcus Brown. I don't know if he's still training Sir Marcus Brown. And honestly, I just think Marcus Brown was, that he was put in a really rough situation against Vitervia. But if what people are saying are true or speculating are true, I would absolutely celebrate that, man, or be happy about it, because I think that Derrick James probably could help him. And if Jermall Charlo starts getting a bunch of knockouts, again, knocks out this guy Montiel, whoever the next guy is that they get in the ring with, people are going to talk a lot less about the quality of opposition that he's fighting, if they don't know their names, and saying, oh, this guy, he went the distance with this guy, he had problems with that guy. I think Jermall Charlo could definitely do better breaking down the body, breaking down people's body and wearing dudes out over the length of the fight, and not being so much of a headhunter. But anyway, I just think it's a good idea. I hope that it's true. Anyway, you let me know what you think in the comment section. Make sure, if you're not subscribed to the channel, to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we release more videos. And with that, I'm out. Peace.